So take a nice comfortable position for your body, so it becomes a basis for your mind. Okay, thanks everyone for coming. This is class 4 of 12 classes about how to create a state of mind that can get you enlightened. And all the steps therein is called the Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life. Is class 4 of 12 or 10, depending if you count the reviews and so on. But really it's a moment in your life for you to pause and consider the realizations of beings who have experienced a thing on this planet that is free from the undulation of the craziness of ups and downs that seem uncontrollable in our lives. It truly is that. For 2 hours of your life, you get to open up the fabric of everyday normality and touch the fountain or the essence of ideas that are realities that can completely transform the way you experience this world and your being. It is engaging with the base code of your mind. It's the most beautiful thing, it really is. I sat outside for about 5 minutes before coming over here. I thought I'd see what my world is like. I just watch it. Forget that I'm teaching, forget that I'm in New York, and I just watched. And I realized watching I'm too familiar, and I make up stories really quickly with the watching. So I closed my eyes and I listened. I don't use that sense like that too often. So I sat just around the corner. I heard all the voices and all the chatter and all the phones and the conversations on the phones. But I didn't realize I sat behind a man, his back to mine, who was talking, he's making his thoughts out loud. So he was projecting whatever was going. I was a little confused at first because I could hear in the distance a very upset person complaining to somebody on the phone why he should sue his doctor. Yeah? And he was dismayed that whatever the doctor did or didn't do is the reason for his terrible experience. And it sounded really like a luxury problem, it sounded like a cosmetic thing. But I was open to seeing whatever that was. He was really distraught, and that distraughtness made him begin to point the finger at cause. And he's like, you don't understand, my father was a doctor, and this was a doctor, and this doctor, if he only knew. And the person was asking, but what is it? And he goes, well, no one really knows. No one really knows. I don't know. The doctor doesn't know. Nobody knows. And even though he knew that nobody knew, he was very happy to point. So even though nobody knows, the doctor should know, and therefore I'll sue him and somehow it'll be fixed. And the man behind me who was voicing things and was weird words started going, malpractice, sue malpractice, malpractice. And I'm like, oh, okay. So it's like, my reality was very weird for a second. And then he says, get yourself a chiropractor. And I opened my eyes because I thought he was speaking to me, but then this very hunched man walked past me. He was walking past. Very afflicted, physically hunched, and he turned around as if I had said, get yourself a chiropractor to his person. And I opened my eyes and he looked at me and I looked at him, but he was looking past me. I hope he was looking past me. For a second I thought he was blaming me for saying get yourself a chiropractor. And he's gone, he looked at me and he says, I've had x-rays, I've gone to the doctors, and he's staring at me like less than that distance. And I'm like, I'm just going to experience it. I'm just going to look at him. You know, it wasn't me, but I wanted to feel terrible and all these things. And then he told me to F off, you know, because I told him, mind your own business and F off. You know, he walked away. And I'm like, wow. When you pay attention to your life, it's that crazy. It really is that crazy. Yeah. And I mean, it sounded like an extreme craziness. But I propose tonight that our everyday existence, even though in the undulation we go through a set of ups and downs that we call normal, and we don't complain as much about if it's within this range. We only complain if it's in this range. And, you know, this range. And, you know, we don't rejoice and yell for happiness if we have hot water and healthy backs and happy minds. No, we think that's normal, so we sit there. And rarely do we rejoice to understand how we don't really know what is it that creates this experience we call now. But if you investigate for a second and you see that undulation, you see the extremes of those wavelengths, that could be your existence and then beyond. We are forever on a razor's edge and forever fortunate to be present the way we are. So I propose that we dedicate today's class to all the craziness in people's minds, all the acceptance of normality and the hope that people get an insight on how magnificent experience of being can be if they just investigate a second. And this book that we're studying is really, it's a code for getting that mojo on, to get that experience on. Before we do a dedication, I want to welcome Claudia and Fran from Peru, from the Sangha in Peru. Claudia in particular was one of the first people to set up this current 3 jewels, the way you see it, logo, etc., etc. And very, very fortunate to have them visiting for a very short time. It looks like the International Week. We had the crazy Australians last weekend, and now we've got some very serious and important Peruvians. Yes, not so crazy. So thanks for coming. Thank you. Yeah. And in the break, please, if they get to hang around, they've got to go halfway, just say hi or wave at them or give them funny looks or something, especially Fran. Yeah. Okay, so let's begin. Remember last week we did the 3 preliminary practices, right, of prostration, which we already did, taking refuge, which is really getting your mind around this idea of emptiness and what that means, yeah, and what refuge from what. And for each of you, you develop that, and to whatever capacity you can imagine a dharmakaya, the emptiness of an enlightened being's mind, in front of you in whatever shape or form you can or cannot imagine it. And then making offerings, right? So let's make an offering now by doing a mandala offering, and then take some refuge. Who wants to go? Can you do it?
Sashi
Puki Jushin Metok Chang Rira Ling Shin Yinde Yampadi Sangye Shindu Mite Vilwargi Drokun Namda Shinla Jiparsho Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kamninyatayami
Sangye
Shiram Soki Chognam Lam Janju Vardu Rakni Vyapsuchi Naki Jinyen Gipe Sanangi Rola Venchir Sangye Druparsho
Sangye
Shiram Soki Chognam Lam Janju Vardu Rakni Vyapsuchi Daki Jinyen Gipe Sanam Ki Trola Benchir Sange Druparsho
Sangye
Chirang Soki Choknam Lam Janju Vardu Dakni Gyapsushi Daki Jinyen Gipe Sanam Ki Drola Benchir Sange Druparsho. I'm just going to ask to do a quick meditation, so take a comfortably seated position, triangulate the bottom part of your body so it's solid and fused to the ground. Your back is straight, but not forced. Your vertebrae stacked one on top of each other, and feel the sense of pull from the crown of your head. Your shoulders slightly back, so whatever you need to do with your hands so they're not crouching forward. Your chin parallel to the ground, your eyes 45-degree angle down. Not fully shut, not much open, enough to let in light but no shapes. And just scan your body so wherever you feel tension, you bring your mind to that area of your body and you release the tension. If it's your frown, just release your frown. Around your lips, allow the corners of your lips to smile just a little. And the same with your eyes. And once you've scanned that and are aware of your physicality, transition to the sensation of the breath entering and exiting your nostrils. You're not forcing anything, you're not rejecting anything, you're just gently returning your mind to the breath. So if there are distracting noises, if your body's moving funny, just allow the mind to return to the breath after it moves to something else. It's not a competition or anything like that. You are just gently easing the mind onto your breath. And just see if you can bring a sense of joy to being aware of the sensation of your breath. The kind of happiness, first of all, that you've got the time to do this. And then that you actually have breath. And then, however busy or supple or focused it is, that you actually have this relationship with your mind, the capacity to observe the breath. And this changes as you change. So see if you can just enjoy, like a child discovering something for the first time, your breath moving in and out of your body through your nostrils. Once you have eased yourself into your breath, see if you can transform the surroundings. You can create your golden room if you remember that meditation. You can put yourself in a wide field on top of a mountain. If you have a special space, your meditation space, a cave. Whatever fantastic and beautiful environment you can create, place yourself there in the same posture as now. Make it peaceful. Make it broad and open. If you can imagine a deep blue sky all around you. And see if you can catch, beginning with your intention to call upon an enlightened being. If you have a teacher, if you consider an evolution of mind to its perfected form as a possibility, see how your mind conceiving of this and calling upon that creates the appearance of somebody in front of you now, seated facing you, in whatever shape or form or sensation connects most with you now. Imagine truly that there is someone in front of you, available fully to you, looking upon you in your thoughts and your heart, and just feeling an openness, a kind of love that fulfills every deepest wish in your heart and removes every obstacle. If you have an understanding of emptiness to whatever level you have, see if you can imagine how that meeting between you and that being is a possibility. How the emptiness of your mind can create a real existence in front of you of a being that functions to connect with you. Virtue at its highest form. And then see if you can become aware of any obstruction, anything that's holding you back from connecting with a highest purity. It can be anything from cynicism to stubborn doubt to fear of being discovered. And ask yourself where they come from. And apply your emptiness understanding to those also. And see if by applying your emptiness understanding to your obstructions, the veil of their solidity disappears for a second, and there is real communion between you and that being. Complete openness. Now the most difficult part of these meditations. Find a truly amazing quality in your current life about yourself. Some beautiful capacity you have. Some fortune in your life. Some goodness that you've done towards others, selflessly. Pick any of these. Unashamedly engage with the memory of you in that state of goodness. And just be happy that you have that capacity. And if you find any obstacles to engaging with that, smash them by considering the emptiness of those obstacles and wishing you can dedicate that goodness and not waste it for the service of others that need it. And in that, be happy. And if you forgot how to be happy, just remember a childhood memory where your face was smiling so much that your cheeks hurt and your heart was open. And nothing around you mattered. No one could stop you from that joy. And ask the being in front of you to please teach you and always stay. And as soon as your intention arises, they rise up and turn to face the same direction you're facing. Begin to shrink and rest at the crown of your head in your protection and care. Imagine a connection between them and the joy in your heart. And when you're ready, you can gently bring your body alive and your mind here. I like these meditations because when I open my eyes, you guys double up and it makes me think that something magical happened. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So this is friends. It was his birthday last week. Claudia's birthday yesterday. Anahita's birthday yesterday. Danielle's birthday last week and a half. Yeah. So everyone is born. Use it up before you die. Okay, that's my. Use it up. Use it. No, it was my birthday on Saturday. I'm trying not to count that on Sunday. For those of you that came to the book launch on Sunday, thank you so much. It was extremely special for me to share my secret Buddha power called Evan Shapiro, who doesn't do any of this stuff, this weird sitting down, going om, like we do. But is a true scientist of the spirit and has discovered and come to realize many of the things we teach here. And so very apt that he should launch his first novel, which is full of dirty words, but really awesome realizations in this room on Sunday. So things will come. Okay, beginning of class, 35 minutes late. So we're studying this amazing book called Thank you. We're getting into the rhythm. I need you to do this. So after we finish this course, I'm not going to be saying, what is that book called? And the only thing you're going to remember is whatever we tried to habituate here like parrots. And whatever you've associated to it through practice, right? So Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life. In Sanskrit it's called louder.
Bodhisattva.
Thank you. Written by a famous yogi from India called Mr. Three Thoughts in the monastery. What were his three thoughts?
Food, sleep, and poop.
Cool. They made jokes that he was only good for thinking about food, sleeping and pooping in the monastery and wasting everybody's time. And they didn't know that he was actually a master. So his real name was Master Shanti Deva. What's Shanti mean?
Peace.
Deva.
God.
Oh. Did we not do that? Thank you. Happy birthday. Okay, that's good. Master Shanti Deva. Written around. Speak up.
1358.
Play again.
9.
No, 700 AD. Who was 1358? Jason Kappa. Good. So that's good. Something got there, right? Something. Now, all these things, like, I think when I was learning these things like this, I thought, okay, is this going to make a difference? Is this remembering Master Shantideva, Bodhisattva, Charapachara? Is this going to make a difference? In a way, it's like mantras. It really is a condensed way to shove into the sounds, Master Shantideva, the idea, Mr. Three Thoughts. Whenever someone talks to you about pooping or sleeping or something, hopefully you're going to remember Mr. Three Thoughts. And with that, the color of that, the karma that's attached to that, what do you call those things at the bottom of boats that you have to clean off?
The keel?
Barnacles, right? The barnacles of karma attached to this one ship called Master Shantideva, Bodhisattva, Charapachara, Bodhisattva's Way of Life are all virtuous, beautiful ideas like the ones we just touched in meditation. And that is what is that is what's condensed in this 700 AD, etc., etc. That is what's happening. That's the mechanics of what's happening. That's why I like doing it, number one, not because I like old school. We've all seen Pink Floyd, The Wall, so we know, no education. So it's not for that. It really is to allow your mind to connect to some simple words, ideas, concepts, a larger set of content that can save you, really save you from your mind being this wild, crazy thing that is uncontrolled. That's the point. So My goodness, this class was so intense for me, this whole course. I remember one of the concepts Geshe Michael talked about, and it was for me the first time, this idea that Buddhism might not work from its own side. I was like, wait, I came to the Buddhism class. What do you mean it might not work? It scared me, you know? And in this class in particular, he said to us, it's like anything you do. You need to prepare. You need to do the warm-up. You need to do it correctly. Someone throwing a book at you and you half-assed doing something is not going to get you great results. And I was so upset because I was hoping this would be the thing I could do half-assed, could do with half of my energy and get a great result. You know, because really that had been most of my endeavors. You know, I'll sort of be committed to working and I sort of get a result. You know, sort of be committed to my gym, you know, and I get this Adonis's body. And but it was really disconcerting to hear him say Buddhism's not going to work if you don't make it work. I'm like, what? And what do you mean? Like, I thought this was going to work. Yeah, that's why I came, because this was going to work. And it really shifted it did something to my mind, you know, and it's still doing it, I have to admit, because my tendency and our tendency is to expect that if I throw that out there, then I'm going to get that result. We live in a self-existent state, in a state of self-existent expectation. You expect that if you do X, Y, and Z, you're going to get that X, Y, and Z result in the nominal way, right? If I turn up to Buddhism class, you know, when people in Buddhism class act stupid, which some of Buddhist people do, right? Actually, sometimes more than other people, you know, like when you turn up to a class on philosophy, you figure people have sorted it out, but they don't sort it out because they come to this room and sit down. We don't sort it out because we read 3 lines of something. We don't sort it out because we do 3 neat things to the head, and that doesn't do anything. We talked about it last week, right? You have to inject it, infect it, insert it, imbue it, whatever the in word is, with some powerful meaning that comes from your mind. It comes from your intent. Karma's 90-something% intention, right? You're just going to get busted knees if you do it for 30 hours. You do, Nundra practice, you know, to do 100,000 prostrations and so on. You see people in Nepal, for those of you that came to Nepal, doing it all the time, and then you see old lamas wobbling, right? I don't know whether they have realizations or not. I hope so. I also see many Westerners going in there doing these practices in the hope that magically my knees to the ground are going to get me enlightened. You're just going to get knee surgery if you don't do it right. It's a transformation of the mind. We have this meat, we have this body as a way to engage with the world we appeared and exist in, but really, it's mostly in the mind. And that means you have to make efforts. Our tendency is not to make efforts. And I don't mean efforts push your body to do 100,000 prostrations. Some people are good at that. I'm not saying don't do that, okay? I'm just saying some people are good at doing that and having the mental stuff. Because through physicality and through movement of mind, their mind is in the body, their mind is engaged deeply. Some people are great at that, yeah? Good. But we, the human race, generalizing now, have the tendency to pick something and then begin to glaze over. In fact, research says that the brain is designed to do that, right? Once you've got a pattern going, you've created the groove, your consciousness isn't there as deeply as it was before. In fact, your mind then gets free. Once that pattern or that habit is formed, your mind is then free to make sure it can create other patterns to avoid pain and get some more pleasure. And so you've got the pattern of, I turn up to Buddhist class, I sit down and do a couple of meditation sessions, I do this thing over here, I think about breakfast or I think about whatever. Do I look good? Is my ass sticking out? My gut felt to the... I mean, what? I don't know what you think. I know what I think when I'm not paying attention. And so our mind then becomes free to think about my other worries and my other happinesses, so it can prevent the things we fear and gain the things we hope. I mean, we know this scientifically, we know this psychologically, we know this physiologically. And so knowing this means our bodies are made to do this. I mean, it's beautiful when you consider the Buddhist teachings that tell you our minds create this, and then the bodies are designed to support this, right? The search for patterns that will create more happiness and avoid suffering. So once you get the groove of something, I turn up to Buddhist class and then I'm going to be happy. Then you do that by route, like driving a car. You don't longer think about driving a car once you're good at it. So your mind is free to think about all the other exceptions, so that people don't jump in front of the car, so etc., etc., etc. Are you getting my meaning? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you talk a lot about this. Preparation is more than half the game. So we start this 10-chapter book called the Bodhisattva Charavatar by Master Shantideva, written around 700 AD, an instruction, a detailed and beautiful instruction on how to grab that thing we call mind and tweak it to the point that it begins to undulate in those waves I was talking about earlier, that encompasses more than the human experience. Not just here, not just the normal, but more than the human experience. Yeah? That it aims truly, uncontrivably towards a state of enlightenment for the sake of yourself and others. So to do that, you've got to put all these things together. He starts off we started the first class by going, what's the motivation for sitting here? Remember that first class was to sum it really up. There are forces in your life that produce the life you have, and whatever life you have, whatever produced it, is going to take it away. That's called karma, and that's called essence of living this human life. To think this is it, that there's no other realms, that no other experiences, that the forces, came out of potatoes that you ate, or to really think about what it is that we have in our existence right now, where it comes from, and what other possibilities, is mind-boggling, and so we tend not to think about it. The motivation for this class is to say, I found myself in this pattern, and something interrupted that normal pattern and said, there is a bigger possibility of you not having to be a schmuck. You could be beyond schmuckness. You could wake up from this dreamlike thing that you called humanity, and you guys landed a fairly fortunate human existence. Really, you did. And if you've traveled a tiny bit, if you've turned on the TV, they're not pixelated ideas on the TV of people suffering from Ebola and suffering from hunger, and they're not pretend. They are lives like yours that appeared on this planet in that way. Their undulation, and their mind unable to engage with anything else than get me food and get me free from bombs and so on and so on. You guys are fairly lucky. I'm extremely lucky too. But whatever started it is going to end it. So in the precious few, don't know how long we've got, use it properly. Use it to the best of your capacity. And you don't have to do it to this way. Just do it to your capacity. You're going to practice different to art. There are people in Nepal where we go and do our thing who are angels compared to the way we go up there and have our luxury issues. Oh, I'm not sure if I could have this for breakfast. And I mean, they'll eat whatever they can, and then with their spare time, they go and take care of other people or dogs or whatever. I mean, this is someone that's born into circumstances 10 times worse than the worst person you can think of in America. And their hearts will, and something made them consider other people. Anyway, you get my point, right? You get my point? Class 1, motivation. Very important. Don't forget it. If you forget it, it's because your brain and your mind, both two separate things, right, are acting in a human way to want to put that aside because I got it, and then my focus and attention can be distracted to other things. That's what we do. Don't get distracted. Keep waking yourself up. The more you wake up, the more you're going to wake up. Then the second class, we talked about bodhicitta and the 5 paths, right? Different to the 5 paths without bodhicitta. What is bodhicitta? Who is someone that's got bodhicitta? What are they called? A bodhisattva, right? What's bodhi mean? And chitta? Mind. So mind of enlightenment, sometimes translated to, right? But it's meaning that you've got that kind of state of mind, right? That your mind is dipped in, soaked in, like tea in water, with this idea that with this precious experience I've got, I better use it for them too. Whatever I'm hurting, you think I'm the only one. Whatever I'm getting, you think I'm the only one. Like we're crabs caught in a bucket, crawling on top of each other, trying to get out of the bucket. The more we crawl on each other, the more we drag each other down. I'm preaching now, I'm not going to preach. Class 3, which was last class, we talked about that Master Shantideva said, before you can even get that seed, before you can even get that state of mind, there's a bunch of obstacles in your way, and you better clean them up. And before you clean them up, you got to be in a state of mind clean enough to cleaning them up. You need the mop, and you need the broom, and you need the equipment, and you need the want to clean up your dirty house. Yeah, if you wake up in the middle of a pigsty in your house, which we did this whole week as we just moved, and it's disgusting, and you don't have a mop and you don't have a thing, you're going to try and clean it up, but you're going to make more mess. You need some good motivation. I'm trying to create an analogy here, but I'm hoping you're all intelligent enough to look past my stupid attempts. Right? You get the point? Yeah, so we talked about the 3 preliminaries to purification, which were prostrations, which we do at every class, right?
Renunciation.
Making offerings and refuge, right? Cool. So before you even begin to clean house, meaning the things that are obstructing you from getting this thing called bodhicitta, the things in your own mind, not some fancy idea, the things in your mind, you have to make it practical for you, Nick. The things in Nick that are stopping Nick from getting a heart that says, for the sake of every living being, I want everything I do to be fused with this idea of waking up for the sake of myself and others, for Nick, for Sarah, for Rachel, for Stephen, for Jennifer, for all of you. Not for some general fuzzy idea. That's not the science of waking up. The science of waking up is for you, David. It's for you and your world, meaning the way you experience your existence. There is no other way that you can experience your existence other than the way you're experiencing your existence. So whatever's stopping you, Emily, you've got to first of all figure out how to create the courses to be able to perceive yourself to truly removing the obstacles. Do you see that, Jacqueline? I'm using people's name to be obvious. Cliff Clinton, I was going to play. It's for you. And it's not like a selfish me. It's for that thing you think is you. You have specific mental things that are preventing you, if this is true, if bodhicitta is such a rare thing that spontaneously flowers like that. What's that flower that flowers once every 10 years? Now, a few in the world in all these gardens. By the way, it stinks, so it's not a good analogy. It smells like rotting meat, but it's not a good analogy. But it's this massive flower like this, and it flowers once every 10 years, and people flock. It flowers for one night.
Yeah, it's from the South Pacific. It's from there.
Yeah, it's this giant flower. Yeah, it stinks. Not a great analogy, but the period in which it takes to flower might be a good analogy. If this thing called bodhicitta, don't get caught in the word, right? Bodhicitta, the heart that says, I wish I could wake up. I wish I could wake up. And be free from being dragged around these cycles for the sake of everyone else that I experience. being dragged across these cycles, not just for me. According to this, it's rare, but it's possible. It's rare, but it's possible. Right? But in order to get to it, you need to create the courses that lets you reach it. And one of those things is, first of all, remove all the blockages. Yeah, we said that last week. And three preliminaries, 3 musts for putting together the courses and conditions to allow yourself to experience a true sense, a true experience of having purified, meaning removed your own obstacles, whatever they are for you. Insert your own name. You do these 3 preliminaries, which are prostrations, taking refuge, and making offerings. There's a reason why we do it every single class. But it's not the stuff, it's not what it looks like. It's not sitting in front of some metal and saying, oh dear metal, remove my mental habituation. The metal is not going to remove your habituation that's negative and prevents you from reaching happiness. Either is the paper or the paint on the beautiful tanka. Either is the wood on the floor or your knees contacting the floor. So why these, and why these specific, and conundrum, right? What should be going through your mind as you do these things? This you have to get, because it is like putting together the most massive, incredibly powerful machine that after you've assembled it, you press the button and pop, piss off old normal life, hello enlightened mind, right? Building the machine takes a long, long time. You need all the parts. This part says, chapter 1 says, don't you want a machine that gets you out of this shitty place? Chapter 2 says, there is a machine that can get you out of the... Right? And it's got the rest of the chapters, 6 main parts, right? But before you assemble it, you need to get yourself a garage and go collect some parts that lets you see, or get some fun, or I'm making up analogies again, that lets you see yourself as being able to put together this kind of machine. And if the machine doesn't have all the right parts, you can press that button as much as you want, as you would turn on a car without a battery, or as you would turn on a car without, I don't know, what's the important part of the engine?
Carburetor.
Is that still necessary for electric cars?
Without an engine.
You get the analogy, right? Insert your own missing part of the engine. You could do the activity of sitting in and going, why isn't it going? And it's because you didn't follow the instructions. And it's not because Master Shantideva told you to do instructions. It's your job to figure out how to connect to these instructions in relation to what terrain your machine is traveling. I'm making sense to me. Maybe like that guy behind me was making sense to me. But I'm looking at some of you going, did Master Shantideva really say there was a time machine? Okay. No, that's Kala Chakra. That's a different machine. Sorry. So, what is going on through your mind as you're doing prostration, offerings, and taking refuge? What did we say from the text was the essence of those things? What are you taking refuge in? Mm-hmm.
Your own concept of enlightenment.
Your own concept of enlightenment. That's it.
Or enlightenment, like manifested as a being.
Give me the nominal. Give me the nominal first, so we can move from the nominal and then get to a more experiential way of conceiving of these things.
The Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha.
Not the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha, but close. The Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. I know, slight difference, right? And again, what is the nominal? Buddha jewel? Nominal.
Buddha. No, that's the ultimate.
Yeah,
The
cool.
nominal is the Buddha.
It's just the Buddha, right? And the Dharma jewel?
The emptiness of the Buddha's not teaching.
The teachings, the ultimate. And the Sangha,
People who
True.
entered the stream entered.
yeah, okay, stream enterers, beings who have seen emptiness directly. But what should you be conceiving of? So it's in relation to this unique experience along the 5 paths, which is called the path of seeing, right? That in that moment where you are in communion with an ultimate state that has no name, but then only after that do you begin to conceive it and name it and whatever, you recognize that you had a direct experience with a Dharmakaya, right? Which removes doubt, yeah? And which means from that point on, there's no one that can say to you, it's followed by a couple of experiences according to lineage and according to instructions on sutras, right? On commentaries. You have a direct experience of emptiness. You're not there as you, not even physically. You have this direct communion with this thing you've been preparing in the path of preparation, right? You've been intellectually trying to conceive of what is the nature of things, right? And just to digress for a second, my amazing friend Evan Shapiro wrote, on his own accord, without studying this stuff, sure in discussion and so on, he has this t-shirt that says,
Nothing is the ultimate everything.
nothing is the ultimate everything. Just of his own accord. Nothing is the ultimate everything. Yeah? The idea that that thing you're looking for, self-existent nature, the nature of anything, as if coming from its own side, the essence of all these things, you're looking and looking, including yourself, including your mind, including the dialogue, including the searching, including the not searching, blah, 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 blah. You're looking for this thing, this one thing, right, that can help you. Like when I turned up to Buddhist class and hoped that Hector Marcel would tell me, you found Buddhism, you'll be okay. And he's like, no, you have to turn it on your own. When you look and look and look for the nature of you, and the nature of you, and the nature of your world, and the nature of your sensation, and the nature of your thoughts, and the nature of your mind, of the universe, and the nature of other beings, you can't find it in the way that you think you're engaging with it. It is empty of existing in any of that way. And each of us has to go through our own deconstructing of that and bumping into the challenges that is understanding that, because we are not in a state of understanding that. We are in a state that is ignorant of that fact. The fact that absolutely nothing has its own nature. And that forever our experience of things are being produced, arise and drop upon this emptiness, like a blank screen where moving parts and coming and going, lights and shades and appearing as images. And then you ask yourself, where the hell did these images come from? And we know for a fact, it's not taking too much investigation. Put 3 people in the same experience and they have 3 different experiences. There's nothing there that is of its own nature. But there is an experience, and it's real, and it will kill you, and it will save you, and all the shades in between, because it is your real experience. It's empty of having that nature, but it functions. Karma and emptiness, They work they are the opposite sides of the same coin. Things can't be changing if they were fixed. And if they were fixed, they couldn't be empty. The fact that they're changing means they don't exist in the way that they think they exist. My boyfriend was a nice boyfriend. Tomorrow he was a bastard. But he was a nice boyfriend. And your mind wants to force a nice boyfriend. That never existed. You just had an experience of a being for a moment that you experienced, that you projected unwittingly, forcefully, without your awareness, this whole experience. This is our lives. To know this, we have to slow it right down and can catch it in meditation if we train our minds. to get to that experience where you have that as a certainty, you've got the good causes to be able to prepare and intellectually look what I was just talking about. And at some point, you begin to habituate your body and your mind to sit and watch. And it doesn't matter if it's moving fast or if it's moving still or slow. You are allowing this mind of yours to just see things as they arise and go and arise and go. With whatever level of understanding of this emptiness thing, right, which isn't a thing, which is a problem in language. Yeah, and at some point you have that experience. And after that experience, it all asserts itself again. The way of dealing with the world needs labels in this form. So you have to give it a name. You have to discuss it in terms which already bound it to something that it isn't. But that's all we have. And that's enough to zoom us out and begin the building of the machine. So when you have that experience, you experience the ultimate mind of an enlightened being. You see how that is a possibility as a fact, as a thing. You're only seeing it after you see. You're not seeing it in the experience. Your mind has now enough virtue to project upon that experience a complete story that functions like this story functions to get you out. It's amazing. And can only happen if you've got enough virtue, enough goodness in you.
Is the story of emptiness just another story?
Of course, emptiness has its own emptiness. There is no, and then you can get all caught up and all. It doesn't. And then you have the two extremes that Madhyamika says. Be careful. The two extremes when you start thinking. I know for me. I don't know for you guys. You might all be hyper intellectual. As soon as you go that's to me. It was an easy out going. Oh, it's all made up. So nothing matters. My dad used to say that to me. As a child, he must have gotten this concept from someone. And as a child, he's like, oh, I'm super wise. Nothing exists. Therefore, I can do anything I want. And he missed a few essential words that later on popped into my consciousness thanks to holy teachers that were able to, for me to experience them as injecting these ideas as truths and then me verify them to my capacity in learning, where he missed the idea of nothing exists from its own side. He missed that, my dad, right? From its own side. Therefore, I can't do anything I want. He missed that. Because if you understand that things don't have a nature, that things are blank, empty, being, vacuous of essence, but you don't experience them that way. You experience them as brick, hard, soft, good, bad, strong, blah, blah, blah. Then you know that good, fast, strong, hard is coming from you, karma. And if you experience it as a pleasure, it must necessarily follow that that was caused by a pleasure, by a goodness of similar nature. And if it was a negativity, if you experience hard, soft, as yuck, it follows that the thing projecting it was caused by that kind of negativity. So then if you understand that things are empty truly, it forces you not to do the hell you want. It forces you to operate within the code of what will produce bliss for your world. And if you're producing people that are yelling at you, you shut up. You don't yell. Unless you like yelling. If you want to create more yelling, you do that. And if in your world you experience abusive people, you stop abusing. And if in your world you experience happy people, you continue making happy. I mean, it's not brain surgery once you get the beginning of the parts. And I can't do that for you, and no one can do it for me. I wish they could. But that was part of the disappointment. What do you mean I turned up to Buddhist class and I'm going to do work? I thought you were going to want me with something, shrink, and then I'd be saved. I'd be happy. Really. And part of me still thinks that. It's like, I get upset, when somebody, we've had enough people in our class that were sitting there, pass away, and never return. They've died from terrible courses or average courses or whatever. And part of me says, but they've been studying Buddhism. They shouldn't die. It's retarded. We are in a sausage conveyor belt.
What?
You know, those conveyor belts that stuff sausages into things, right? And the content of the next sausage that will be made up of the stuff that we put in it this life. Unless you can manage to be a conscious enough sausage to jump out of the conveyor belt, okay? So I'm making really bad metaphors today. I apologize.
That's my favorite one.
That sausage conveyor belt. Okay. So Master Shantideva says you've got to do these things, right? And you've got to do them and check yourself every week, every hour, every month, whatever it takes to go, am I doing prostrations right? Yeah. But if you're not doing prostrations, you can't be doing them wrong. And you're definitely not doing them right. And if the instruction says, before you purify, you've got to do these 3 things, then you can't just go and purify and expect results like you would if the instruction manual to putting together the machine that goes bing says, you've got to do these 3 things before you put the engine together. Right? Is that? And you can like it or dislike it. You can fight about it, or you can be unique, individual, American. I mean, I was like that too. Like, I'm my own person. I'm going to do what I want. Yeah? And at some point, that didn't work, so you submit. You try. And then you see. Or you can waste another 10 years. I wasted a ton of years. And when I followed instruction, miraculously, when I sat down to meditate, I had some results. But, you know, for all the time that I didn't meditate, didn't meditate, didn't make offerings, didn't make offerings, it wasn't quite working. And that's what he meant by you turn it on. You turn it on with your practice. And you either have a tragedy, or you get fed up, or you fall by the wayside, or you become this middle-aged, boring Buddhist who is doing all the kneeling and all the blah, but nothing's really changing. And if things are empty, then you're not doing it right. Or go ahead and go and get another instruction. Go work for Wall Street, or go get yourself a fashion job, or go get yourself 16 partners, or whatever it is that you think is going to do it. This instruction manual says, you do these things, you get results. And, you know, I hesitate to tell you because it sounds like, oh, it's a sales pitch, or I hesitate to tell you. But I also tell you from experience, I've failed enough to know that if I'm meditating, not meditating, meditating, not meditating, I'm getting those kind of results. But and you know when you're practicing, yeah? And it doesn't mean that practicing means you're in the zone, okay? In the zone, to me, means you've got the results of practicing. When you're like, oh my goodness, you know, you're sitting at the steering wheel and then all of a sudden you hit a nice clear patch of road where you don't have to do too much steering. You're like, I'm such a good driver. Right? You got yourself to that part of the road. Yeah? I can't do it with the bike. So, before we purify our minds, our obstructions, our own, insert your name, we do the 3 preliminaries. And that was the review. Tonight, we're going to cover, again, we're going to say some Tibetan words so you can link to those sounds the blessing and idea of 1,000+ years of practitioners who said these words to each other. Yeah, from generation to generation, said these words. So please share and say with me, Top Shi.
Top Shi.
Top Shi. So Shi is a number 4, and Top means force. The 4 forces. Cool. Someone was reading well. I know. So long as it goes in his head, I'm very happy, you know. So if you had to, I had this idea of asking you this, and I just remembered it, so I'm going to ask you. If you, Jacqueline, had to, I like this using your names because you're like,
Wakes me up.
what? Me? if you had a challenge to say, for the next week, you got to tell somebody how to reach enlightenment in 3 steps, yeah, but you can't use Buddhist words, right? If you had to just say, well, what are the essential things you have to say to somebody for them to get enlightened, or for them to know the steps to enlightenment or get enlightened? And it's not the 3 principal paths. Yeah, what are 3 things you could say to somebody, not using Buddhist words, really engaging with the other person, to tell them this is what you got to do with your mind to experience your mind as waking up. So I'm going to share it for you. I'm not even have to say it. But think about it. What if you had to describe this? What if it's up to you to say, what are 3 things that we must do to experience the way we experience our mind, experiencing the world as pure and free from these cycles we call samsara. And number 1 is, you got to stop doing negativity. If your world is coming from your mind upon blankness, yeah, if really, assuming that's true.
But how do you really? But a normal layperson wouldn't assume that's
No,
true.
I know. I'm asking you, right? I see what you're saying.
Is they go like, well, why was that dude a dick to me?
Yeah.
Well, you fucking produce it, dog. You know, it's like they don't know.
Yeah.
Know that.
So then you'd have to retract, right? And you'd have to get them to come to the realization that there's something in them in labeling that experience. So you have to use that particular thing. I'm trying to generalize here that to say for any mind, yeah, I'm talking to practitioners, for any mind to experience itself as pure, you have to first of all stop doing negativity, right? Remove any future negativity, so as the sausage gets rebuilt, you get less and less muck in it, right? Remove negativity. 2, remove past negativity. So stop doing crappy things that color your mind negatively. 2, you've already got a bunch of things in your own stream of mind that you have done wittingly or unwittingly in the past that are obstructing you, that are creating sufferings for you. Got to clean them up. Yeah. And 3rd, you need to do not good karma, not good deeds, not fill your mind with good. You need to fill your mind with extraordinary goodness, right? Like exceptional goodness. I know that the implication of my question was, I can see what you were trying to do, but I was trying to get to these 3 ideas. That, let's say today you decided, okay, this enlightenment thing might be really true. I'm going to wake up. I've got a short period, I'm going to wake up. So I better, from this moment on, as best as I can understand, these things are coming from me. And the more I do, say, or think things, the more that produces my reality. So I better do, say, and think things that are not harmful, at least not harmful to others. Stop my negativities. Yeah? If you had to stop that today, what's the laundry list of activities you personally, me, Sarah, etc., have to do? Different for you, different for you, different for you, different for me. Yeah? And you probably have some nice patterns that you, A, know about, but don't do anything about, and B, might not quite know about, and you keep bumping into the ghost of them. Yeah, your blind spot. That shitty blind spot. Yeah? But if you listen to other people enough, you're like, it was always there. When you see it, you're like, damn it, I was always exaggerating. And then nobody told me. Nobody ever told me that. So you gotta catch. You get it, good. So this is communion we're doing now. So if you stop those, right? If you stop those, who thinks they could stop them for a full day? Right? Okay, how about an hour? You stop doing the shitty you. right? The one that harms, intends, thinks, says, or does harm to others. Don't know if I can do the thinking, right? Especially if you put me in front of chubby people on the subway. I mean, that's a problem for me, you know? Seriously, like I have this problem, right? Judge people. Terrible. I know my mind. I've seen it. You know, one of the byproducts of engaging with your mind is you see its shitty nature and you think, I'm getting worse. In fact, you're just getting more aware. You know?
That's actually really relieving.
Yeah. No, it is. It's in the scriptures. They say that as you engage to these practices, especially the practice of purification, that you actually think things are getting worse. And all it is really you're like cleaning the windscreen and going, oh my goodness, that was always there. Yeah? You have that perception. So be diligent, continue. So I don't know if I could do it for an hour. You know, I could do it in meditation, but put me out on a subway, I'm in trouble, mentally. I know I've mastered the art of bullshitting, so I could be nice to you, Hannibal. I can be really nice. But my mind could be now like Tourette's going, say this to him. You know, and I do it as jokes. Oh, it's joking. You know? Of excuse. I mean, seriously, who doesn't do that, right? This is our condition. This is true. So to get enlightened, you've got to stop that. Colouring your mind. It's funny, come on, it's pretty hilarious. Look, someone says, here is the elixir to freedom. And you're like, oh my God, I gotta drink so much of it to use it. And then, let's imagine that you've managed to stop. Something forced you. You had some catastrophe. You had some wake-up call. You had some realization that forced you to stop being those things. And even wake up to the shadow side of you, your blind spot, and you've even built the capacity to stop those. Then you've got to clear up that, at least this lifetime that you know about, every moment you said a nasty thing to somebody, anytime you tried to cheat somebody, anytime you tried to hurt another, every time you took something from someone else without them knowing, any time that you're even harmful to your mum and your dad and your siblings, but they're all in your mind. These imprints are in your mind. You've got to clean them, right? So then, assuming you do those two things, then stuff the mind, stuff that sausage, stuffed with goodness. Yeah, with extraordinary goodness. Because that will produce, at the end, at the other side of the conduit, a reality that seems like enlightenment. So then, there's this sutra called Chushi Tempedo, which is the sutra of the 4 practices. So who speaks the sutra? The Buddha, right? There is one that's not spoken by the Buddha, but it's got the name sutra. Can't remember what it was.
Heart Sutra. Heart Sutra.
Was it the Heart Sutra? They say, yeah. I think he doesn't say anything except so, it is so, something.
Yeah.
So this sutra that explains these 4 forces that works for the middle one of those. First of all, stop doing the negatives, right? Stop collecting negativity in the stream of your mind that is forcing your reality. That you got to do through practice. Secondly, how do you go back and grab the major garbages that are coming your way, producing the dissatisfactions and the negativity in this reality? And the Buddha spoke the sutra of the 4 forces, practices, 4 practices, which relate to the 4 forces. And in the Diamond Cutter Sutra, if you guys remember, we did that ACI 6, he also speaks there of the 4 forces, but instead of saying that you can purify completely your past karma, he says something different there. Do you remember what he says? He says that you could get a karma that would drive you down to the hell realms and reduce it, not kill it, but reduce it to a headache, to a small problem. Yeah?
Yes.
And then he says, this is also going to be encouraging for you, Walter. Hopefully, if the other comment was encouraging. He also says, expect to have problems. If you're going to do the purification that reduces whole existences in the hell realm down to headaches, and if you're doing it well, you're gonna have problems, he says. Which when you read it, I remember, do you remember this in the Dhammapada Sutra?
I thought it was a lot worse than problems. I thought it was going to get real bad, right?
Well, he says you will suffer, he says, you know? But then you take on that suffering as a kind of transformation pleasure. You transform that suffering, because if it's coming from you doing purification, it's a completely different thing than having a headache because you cause other people pain in that way. Does that make sense? Yeah? It's a highly concentratedly reduced. It's the opposite of concept of, I don't know how to describe that one. Imagine eons in a hell realm reduced down to 2 hours of massive headache. With those 2 hours of massive headache, if it's a result of purification, he says, right? If you are doing the 4 forces, you can experience long time in the hell realm to a few hours of headache, and you will be sure to suffer, he says. Yeah. Then expect suffering if you're doing purification.
That's the headache in this realm, not in the hell realm?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. Don't think you're going to get more than a headache in the hell realm. Yeah.
I don't mean to be too analytical about it, but how could you experience anything but what you caused? I don't understand that about purification.
Mm-hmm.
How can you experience something and go, oh, it would have been, a whole week in a hellhole and versus, I pricked my finger. I don't understand that.
It's a good question. No, it's a good question, and it's long and intense debates. 2 schools of the 4 schools don't believe that you can do that. They ask the same question.
Which schools?
The 2 lower schools. Yeah. So they say no, not possible. You must get all of the result of all the karma you produce, right? And then there's this debate. Oh, did the Tibetans up in such and such create these 4 forces power, and that's why we're giving you the source of this? And then there's 2 sutras from the Buddha, the Dhammapada Sutra, that says you reduce it, and then the 4 forces says it's gone altogether, right? So you tell me why it's possible to have a direct and correct perception, a valid perception, a pramana, that something that could have been a vastly massive catastrophe can be experienced as a slight negativity. Ta-da!
It's empty.
That's a good answer. But it's not. You got to think of what that means, right? You got to think of what that really means. We're not going to have the full discussion here, but we're going to continue the 4 forces next week. I'm going to do the summary of the 4 forces, and then we go into detail. But the answer lies in that, right? There is no self-existent nature to karma, and we get in dangerous ground here. Okay, just like emptiness is empty. There's no self-existent nature to karma. It does not mean that when you stand in front of a bus, you will not be mangled. Okay?
But it doesn't mean that you necessarily would get mangled if you stood in front of a bus.
Exactly. Yeah. But you probably will get mangled, right? So then you've got to think about it in those terms. You can't separate the reality you're experiencing by saying, oh, it's all empty. Yeah, and it's just karma. Just karma means this is just karma. If you cut me now, this is going to bleed. Yeah? Unless you have the virtue to see something else. But it's probable that this is going to bleed. So but it's empty. And it's produced by karma. Don't disconnect from your experience of reality, and don't think that this is the only reality and it has to be just this. Remember the undulation? We are within this realm of human undulation. The possibilities are endless because it's empty. Right? But we are stuck in these limits. And as you practice, the limits can expand, yeah?
Who's the Buddhist master that killed a whole town or something like that, and then purified in one lifetime to enlightenment?
Master, he looks like this.
Milarepa.
Yeah.
What was just this? What did you say?
Milarepa.
He killed them.
He killed like a whole town in
Yeah.
this life and vengeance of his family, and then in the same life he purified to enlightenment.
Yeah, but he worked very hard. Right?
Yeah.
Like,
He-
like it was
Yeah.
a tough purification. And he didn't have the nice lamas that we have now. He had a,
Probably got one in a headache.
he probably got a couple of
Well, he didn't have a
headaches.
nice lama because of that, though. He didn't have a nice lama.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
of
I
that.
mean, I meant nice in our the kindest lama he could have ever had. He had, right?
Can I address the stop doing the negatives?
The what?
Would stop doing the negatives?
Can you do it after the break and let me get
Yes.
through the content and not forget it?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank
Because
you.
this is what I teach.
Cool.
And I think it's important.
Okay. Well, if I get through the content, please.
Awesome.
Yeah. Cool. So the 4 forces, I gave you there's 2 places where you could find them, right? Now, like I said before, think about the 4 forces and what he says, what the Buddha says in the Dharmakaya Sutra in particular, that if you do these, you will reduce a terrible thing to a slightly bad thing, but you will suffer, right? You'll be sure. Then if you're purifying, you're probably doing lots of headaches, right? Lots of suffering. I'm using the word headaches, but it means particular to the thing you're purifying. And it's no different to changing your diet and getting healthy, or doing some exercise and going, I'm finally going to do yoga, or I'm going to do sit-ups, and you're probably going to get some toxins out of your body. You've got to think of it that way. Yeah? So know that these things are going to produce some results in this realm, but they are ultimately good. Yeah? The Lamrim teaches the 4 forces in one order. In the 4 Practices Sutra, they're taught in a different order. Master Shantideva teaches it in 2 different orders in the guide. So I'm just going to give you the forces, and then we worry about the order next week. Okay? Is that okay? So the first force, say Nampar Sum, Jinpei Top. So top, means force, right? And Nampar Sum Jinpe it means to rip out, it means to destroy. It's a similar sound that you use to describe the word for rape. It's like to obliterate, to deface, and it's got a power behind that word. Okay, so this is called the destruction force, the force that destroys. Okay, and this is the one that if you have a seed to have a horrific experience, if you have a mental seed of a karma, this is the one that damages that seed. Yeah, and you will get a shitty little sprout that then will not grow into a full tree because something's short-circuited it. Yeah, this force, the destruction force. You've heard this in the scriptures. They use the power behind the destruction force is regret. Okay, regret, not just I'm so sorry. Regret means intelligent regret. Intelligent regret means regret for an intelligent, educated, I'm going to call it Buddhist, but it means a being that understands karma and emptiness, okay, understands the nature of things. For our discussion, I'm calling it Buddhist, but it does not mean that if you label yourself a Buddhist, you're going to automatically qualify for this, okay? You actually have to internally be a Buddha, yeah?
What's the difference
Buddhist.
between regret and guilt?
Good. Big difference, okay? And when I first heard the word regret here, I, from a Catholic upbringing, Hispanic upbringing, instantly thought I have to feel guilty about this stuff. And it is so far removed from guilt, okay? As far as I know, there's not a single word in the Tibetan language that translates to guilt. Guilt is a powerless, I feel bad for myself, I'm just so bad, I'm terrible. It is paralyzing. Intelligent regret is active. It places you, and this is why I'm putting intelligent in front of regret, right? Because an intelligent regret about what are we talking about? We're talking about you did, said, or you or thought something that if you're an educated practitioner, let's say, an educated practitioner, you understand cause and effect on emptiness. You know that that thing you just did, you should get some chills inside of you going, I'm about to get that back by the truckload because I've just infected my mind with that intent. Whether it's judgment, whether it's anger, whether it's hatred, whether it's jealousy, whether it's idle talk, gossip, whatever it is that you did. And this is just a summary. There's an infinite number of these things that we do all the time. Say, think, or do. If I punch someone, if I cut someone off, whatever it is, yeah? If you see yourself, if you're observing yourself doing this with a little bit of awareness, and you have, and you're a practitioner of sorts that understands the world doesn't have a nature. The nature of this world is constantly coming from what my stream of mind is labeling upon it. I can't even control it because I planted it a long time ago. That's why I'm having this. If you understand that to whatever degree you do, then it doesn't take 2 brain cells to realize you just created a future suffering if it was a negative experience. So you get some chill, you get some intelligent, because you understand the mechanism of what's producing your reality, regret that turns into active. Because active means I better pull that back, change that now, do something, purify it, fix it, whatever you need to do, because you don't want that poison in your mind. And the quicker you do it, the quicker you purify that action of body, speech, or mind, the less chance that you're going to have that as a result. That's a big result.
So that thought process alone is
That
the force
begins-
that destroys the seed.
Intelligent regret. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, it's the beginning. You need to do all 4 forces. You can't just do one, okay? So this is why it's called practice, because you practice until it becomes second nature. Sorry, my legs are having a negative karma.
You know, in Lama Zopa's book, Bodhisattva's Attitude, there's chapter 4, it's called Give Up the Stretching of the Legs.
Is it really? No, I didn't know that. Thanks, Nick.
It's beautiful.
So I'll do that now. Thank you. And then you do whatever you need to do, mental gymnastics, to remember causality, karma, that consciousness continues. And Master Shantideva goes into some details about remembering the three results of karma. Yeah? And we'll cover that probably next week too, because it'll go to some detail. But in essence, it means your mind doesn't stop. Consciousness continues, and it continues in the color in which you've been infusing it. Yeah, and if you just did something that was colored with negativity, you are bound to get a chunk of that. And the more you leave it growing in your stream, the bigger it's going to be an experience for you. It's not outside of you. It's your mind creating this thing. So it's regret, intelligent regret says to, oh my goodness, I understand to whatever limit I can how suffering occurs, and I just produce some more for myself. And if you want to add to it bodhicitta, you better think the more shitty I am, the more shitty I'm making my world and those around me too. You know, when you're negative, you're creating more negativity around you. So then you can infect already in the regret force some bodhicitta. Yeah? I'm going to give you the 3 other forces. So say foundation force.
Foundation.
That's Tenki top. Tenki top. Foundation. And here foundation means the ground, the foundation in which you build a house, the basis on which you put stuff off. And it means that if you've fallen flat on your face, doing some non-virtue, some negativity, even though you know that that's not going to be good for your future, let alone the future of the world you exist in, you've fallen down, face flat down on the ground. Foundation means you're pushing yourself up against something. You're going to get up, right? You're getting up against this foundation, and the foundation has two parts, and one is refuge and the other one is bodhicitta. We'll get to it better next week. Say Kempo, Kuntu, Chupeito. And this is the antidote force. This is the anti-venom, the counter karma that will add to the mix of the four forces some opposite stuff to what it was that you did. And the six, or make-up activity, if you like, right? So you did a crappy thing, you built some regret, you do some foundation, meaning you think of refuge in the way you know how to do it, and you infect it with some bodhicitta. And then in the antidote force, you do some make-up activity that is specifically dedicated at chipping down further that karmic seed that you planted. Does that make sense? Yes? Yeah. And you need to do all four, right? And I'm going to give you 6 basic antidotes,
Did I miss one?
Tenki top
Isn't it?
is foundation force.
Yeah.
Third one.
The third one is Kempo Kuntu Chupe top. That means the antidote force. This is 3.
You didn't do the fourth one.
I haven't done 4.
You haven't. Oh, sorry.
No, I'm saying in each one of them, each one alone is not sufficient to short circuit the karma. You need to do all 4. I've only covered 3 so far.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why I said you've got to do all 4. The six types of classic types of antidote. So you understand what you did, right? You've got somebody yelling at you at work. They may be wrong. They shouldn't yell at you. Okay? Sometimes they're right. Sometimes they should yell at you. But in this case, let's say they're totally wrong. They're completely mistaken, and you're in trouble. I'm yelling at you. Yeah. You yelling back is not going to stop them ultimately yelling. If you have anger, and you are just coloring your mind with anger and frustration and vengeance and all that stuff. And all you're getting back is vengeance and frustration and anger. That's all you're getting back in the truckload. And so you catch yourself doing that and you go, regret. Yeah? As soon as you catch yourself, quick regret. Not guilt, regret. The classic way they explain regret in the scriptures is they say 3 guys turn up to a bar and they get, it's not a joke. So I was sitting there. And they ask for that drink that's weird over there, and they all get the drink. And the first one drinks it, the second one drinks it, the third one drinks it. And as the third one's drinking it, he watches the first one go, and he dies. And he's like, what's happened to my friend? And the other one is going, oh my God, I drank the same thing. And intelligent regret is described as the feeling the third guy has as he begins to choke up and realizes he's going down the same track. And he might have like 15 seconds or something to do something about it. It's that kind of feeling. It's like, I did something totally stupid. I shouldn't have had that thing. And now it's going to have its effect on me with certainty. Intelligent regret is knowing for a fact you're getting the result that you caused. Anger with anger. Frustration with frustration. Hatred with hatred. So as soon as you get it, you get that feeling that that's going to happen to me for real, not in my mind, imaginary, I'm going to be exempt. Like that. That's the one they use here. So then, I'll give you a break in 2 minutes. Is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
Good.
Is it worth breaking?
Yeah, I think it's worth breaking after the 4th one, and then we can come back. Yeah. Here are the 6 antidote forces. Classical, okay? The first one is study of the profound, which means study sutras of the profound, which means, what's the profound? Emptiness, yeah. Whenever you're in doubt in this class of Buddhism, emptiness is the answer. Okay? And it doesn't mean the time you study emptiness on your own. It means you have caught yourself doing something stupid for you, you get some regret, you think refuge and bodhicitta, meaning the emptiness of this thing is going to guarantee me a result. I better clean it up for me and the sake of everybody I engage with. So if I figured out how to stop it, that's a foundation force. And then I'm going to do a make-up activity. I'm going to do something that counteracts that force. It's like you've got a balance, and all of a sudden, with your negative karma, you just put a heavier load on the darkness of your mind. You're going to load up the whiteness, the lightness, by doing this antidote. And one of the 6 classical antidotes is studying sutras on emptiness. So it's not you sitting in the subway going, I'm reading emptiness, I'm a good boy or girl. It means I have just done something. I'm going to dedicate 15 minutes specifically to that shitty comment I made to my boss, my partner, and money. Yeah? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Number 1. The same is true for the other 5. Meditate on emptiness. This is the most powerful one. Doing a good meditation dedicated to a karma, dedicated to purification, on your best understanding. And they say in the description, whatever your level of understanding of emptiness, it is good enough to start purifying. Yeah? So you don't have to be like Mr. Direct Perception of Emptiness. That is a coarse thing. So you have to do it to your capacity. So meditating on emptiness, why would that be the ultimate antidote out of these 6? Why would meditating on the nature of emptiness be a real antidote to the sufferings you can experience through shitty actions?
Because you produce those sufferings through ignorance.
Exactly, and excellent, beautiful.
Could you repeat that?
You produce the sufferings through your own ignorance.
And your understanding of emptiness to whatever level, what's it do? It smashes ignorance. Yeah, you understand how things come to be, and so you stop yourself from doing the things that cause you suffering. You get that? That's profound. That's a beautiful answer. Third one is you recite, and that they checked this while they were doing the first translation. You recite secret mantras. And I can't tell you about secret mantras because this isn't an open class, not a secret class. But then there is, I think Dharma Kirti talks about why mantras work. And it says they must have been spoken by an enlightened being. Therefore, they have to have authority. You can't make up your own mantra. And your mind has to be clean as you recite them, meaning you have a depth of understanding and so on. And so in that open teaching, Dharma Kirti explains that there is power in reciting a condensed version of sound that embodies an entire teaching. I mean, you got that in the Heart Sutra. That's an open mantra, I guess. Gate gate paragate parasamgate bodhisattva. And it's not at Starbucks, latte, give me something. Okay.
And the secret, when you keep it secret, it reaches the depth of your subconscious.
Exactly, and it's way powerful, and it's individual to you and your teacher, brother. Good. 4, recite the practice of the holy bodies. Now remember, we had to go searching what the hell that meant, and we had a preliminary database, and it meant painting holy bodies of Buddhas, painting tankas, doing sculptures, doing this arts, if you like, that generate holy bodies.
What was it? But what was the word? Recite the...
No, practice of the holy bodies. The previous one was recite secret mantras. Number 5 is making offerings, which we covered last week, but I didn't tell you the 12 mental offerings, the imaginary offerings. I'm going to ask you to look them up. They're beautiful. They're offerings you create in your mind because you're shit poor and you live in New York City. And so they're like a beautiful sunset and not my credit card balance. And, yeah. Then the practice of names, which means learning and reciting the holy names of practitioners.
That's 6.
That's 6.
Can you say 5 again?
Yeah, 5 is making offerings as a practice, which is what we covered last week. So that's the third force.
Wait, 6 is just learning the names?
Learning and reciting the names. So practice, it's called practice of the names. So it means learning and reciting the names of holy beings. So, you remember if you have a heart teacher, if you have a special teacher, you just use their name and that's amazing. But if you remember Master Shantidevam, Dharma Kirti, Yatisha, etc., 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 you have an association. I mean, it would work because you have an association to what these beings really are. You really have a conception of what they are, and as that conception passes through your mind takes on that shape. And it's beautiful to conceive of a holy being, because as you hold them in your mind takes on that shape, even if they're imaginary. Yeah. The last force, which is really the crux, okay, is called, say after me, Nempe,
Nempe,
Lelarn,
Lelarn,
Dokpe Top.
Dokpe Top.
And this is the restraint force, which means you make a commitment not to do that thing again. It works. Like, this is the crunch, right? If it's a really strong physical or verbal thing that you can really commit not to do that again, like rape, abortion, I mean, really obvious things that you say, I just did something that completely hurt something, right? I can commit for a long time not to do that again because you have some control over those things. Then commit them to not do that for a long time. If it's a mental thing, like, I just wished my boss would explode, then it's unlikely you're not going to have that kind of thing going through your mind again if you've already got the propensity for that kind of thing. So the lineage, the verbal lineage says, do not add lying to your purification by saying, I'll never think badly of my boss again, because you're probably going to do it. I'll never lie. You just lied as you did the thing. So they say the verbal advice in the lineage is commit to a time frame that is a stretch for you, but an achievable stretch. Yeah, commit to a time that's saying, I will not, or make it specific, I will not lie to my boss in the next 2 hours. And it's likely then that your boss will come to you and ask you something sensitive. Yeah.
I thought with the antidote, the makeup action was really important. So I've done something to hurt someone else. I'm going to make some action to help.
To make it similar is an advice also, but these are the 6 classic, yeah, in this text. Yeah, but you're right. So for example, if you've killed a life, you take care of a life, and so on and so on. You get creative with it, so long as the action is dedicated to that. So they're the 4 forces. I'll do the wrap-up when we come back. Please take 5 minutes, yeah? Go pee, get yourself some food, and then I promise I'll close quickly and we might even get time to share.
Sure.
Yeah?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot your birthday present.
No problem.
But that gives me an excuse to bring it to your new place and cook you dinner.